Hi guys, welcome to the new and improved Dad Corner. Today we're going to talk about 3 things that Natalie and I did that really helped us mentally feel prepared for the transition we've recently gone through of becoming parents. Welcome to our channel. I'm Sean. I'm the Sylver part of SylverandZeus. My wife Natalie is the Zeus part. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting the subscribe button down below. Here on our channel, we release music. Every month we release a new single. Besides just that, we do daily vlogging where you can see our family, you can see how we're living, how we're growing, the decisions we're making, and the adventures we go on. And then starting with this video, we are now going to be doing a Dad Corner every Wednesday. So if you are interested in things dadding, changing diapers, come back next Wednesday and consider checking out our vlog and our music. So today I want to talk about 3 things that Natalie and I have done that really helped us feel mentally prepared for having a kid. These are things that anybody can do, and I think that it doesn't matter how far into the parenting journey you are, they will affect you. If you are 15 and you're just thinking, someday I want to have kids, it's perfect. Start now. And if you have 4 little ones running around you, you still might be able to get something out of it. Number 1. We call number 1 watch and think. The basic part of this is really simple. Watch other parents, watch how they parent, watch what they do, and then think about it. What's really most interesting about this is some people really like it, but as soon as you start doing this, you're going to start discovering that you're going to catch a little bit of flack, especially if you say any of your thoughts. And there are a couple of reasons for that, and they're important to understand why that happens, so we're going to come back to that in a second. The important thing to realize is you're never too young to start learning from other parents. I don't think you're probably ever too old to start learning from other parents either. So there are a couple things that we think particularly we've found have been really helpful in watching other parents. First is identifying behaviors and responses. Parental behaviors and then the way the children respond, as well as children's behaviors and the way parents respond. Now, it's hard to just generalize off of one individual. It takes a long time to start seeing patterns as to how, oh look, when I see most parents act this way, I see that children tend to respond like this. You have to spend time doing it, because if you just watch one parent, one kid, every kid's different. The better you can identify those patterns, the better you can learn how you are going to respond. You can start making those decisions, because the thing is, you can't control a child. He's going to do what he wants to do, or she if you have a little girl. But when they act certain ways, you can learn how you can start learning different ways that you can deal with it. And that is really what makes the biggest difference, in my opinion. Learning how to control yourself instead of trying to just control the child. The second thing that we think is really important to watch and then to think about is identifying different parenting styles and the situations those parents are in, and then deciding if something like that would work for you. That means looking at various parents, watching how they're parenting. There's so many different parenting styles, and everybody kind of has their own, really. So looking at them and saying, how is your life like mine? How is yours different? How are our thoughts similar? What's different or the same about our beliefs or philosophies? And as you start to do that, you'll start to see that some parenting styles fit really well into your lifestyle, into your philosophy, into your belief system, and some just don't. But one of the problems you'll have as you start doing this is, I call it the just wait till you have kids line. You start catching a little bit of flack. Now, I don't necessarily recommend talking to everybody about this. Even if you're just talking to family or to friends, you'll start discovering people kind of don't necessarily like all your thoughts. This really confused me for a while. I was really confused as to why I could have thoughts about how I wanted to raise my kids, and somebody would get really mad about it. I think it's important to understand that everyone wants to be a good parent, and everyone is in a different situation. So my next door neighbor is going to make different decisions about her kids than I am. And that's okay. But some parents get a little caught up in that, and so when they come to give you advice or tell you this is how I'm doing things, then they discover that's not how you want to do things. For your kids, they can take that as an affront to their own parenting, and usually that's not what you mean. The truth is, the path of parenting is actually really well documented. Every child is different. and every situation is different, but you can learn a lot really early on. It's important to keep in mind, though, as you're learning things and watching things, to be kind to other parents, because they're doing their best. They're trying to be good moms and dads, and they might not always agree with you. So when you catch flack, keep in mind that what might have happened really there is you might have made them feel a little defensive about their parenting. So watch and think, but make sure you're being kind to other parents as you are watching them and thinking about their parenting styles. Remember that by doing that, even if you disagree with them, they are helping you to become better parents. Step 2 is really related to step 1. Once you've spent a lot of time observing other parents and thinking about parenting, there's going to come a point in time where you need to start talking to people about parenting. And there are 2 different groups of people that really have a lot to offer in that area. The first is parents who already have experience, but there's a caveat here. You can't just go and ask a parent for advice. You'll get a load of advice that isn't necessarily what you need. We found works much better, at least for us, is to go to people we already know, that we've built relationships with and are friends with, and instead of asking for advice, to ask them, so what was the most challenging part of having your son at this age? And how did you deal with it? Why did you do that? What happens is you get to see the thought process. They'll tell you the story. They'll tell you what they thought beforehand, what they did, what happened, and what they thought afterwards. And that thought process is a lot more important to learn than just the simple like, oh, you should put baby to bed before 7 because then you get more time with your spouse at night, or whatever advice they might give you. There's a lot more wisdom quite often to be found when you actually start delving into the how and the why of what they've done. The second person that is really important to talk to is your spouse. Your co-parent, the person that is going to be helping you raise that child, build the culture of your home. So what do you talk about? You talk about all your thoughts from step 1. And I suggest all your thoughts. Natalie and I started talking about becoming parents probably a good 2 years before we were even married. So it's been a good 7 years, and I can tell you that my thoughts at the beginning of the process are nothing like what they are now. They are like it, but I've grown and changed a lot. We've moved, we've seen other parents, and the thing is we've both talked, and she has a lot of really mature, intelligent thoughts on the subject that have really altered some of my thoughts on the subject, and vice versa. What happens as you do this is you start to exchange ideas, not just on the basic, like day-to-day things of how are we going to discipline this child. You start creating a philosophy and culture for your family. And that's the thing, is your family is going to have a philosophy and a culture. It's going to develop. So the question becomes, are you going to let random chance and whatever happens in your life develop your family's culture and philosophy, or are you and your spouse going to take charge of that yourself? Are you going to say, this is what we want to build with our family, this is how we're going to do it, and then do your best to go do it? Are there going to be bumps in the road? Of course, this is life. What this eventually leads you to discover is that there is a big difference between parenting on purpose and parenting by accident. Now, you might start out becoming a parent by accident, but you can still parent on purpose. That leads right to step 3. Step 3 is the missing thing that brings in step 1 and step 2, and it seems really obvious, but a lot of people forget it, and that is to decide. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? The reason that I say this is because a lot of people start having ideas of, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then something hard happens, and they give up. I have seen in my own life, as family and friends have abandoned philosophies that they had, not because they didn't want them, but because it was just slightly harder. There are times where that might actually be an okay thing to do, but as a general rule, you should at least try before you give up. Some of your decisions may be really easy, really popular. This is what people are doing. I really like the Moby wrap, I want to get that. Not a big fan of spanking, not going to spank, whatever your decisions are. But some things are going to be hard, especially if you really do start to deciding a philosophy for your family. And a lot of times we forget that while we may have similar problems, my life, my thoughts, my feelings are going to be completely different from yours on many subjects. The situation I'm in, how much money I make, all these other factors that determine different aspects of parenting, all of them are going to be different from you to me. So, instead of just giving in to each person who says, oh, you can't do that, that's impossible, why would you put a baby on an airplane, or whatever it is, as you examine your philosophies, as you examine other parents, and as you start talking about these things, as you start talking about parenting with other people and with your co-parent, assuming that you have a co-parent, props to everyone out there who's able to pull off being a single parent. I think that is a lot of work. There will come times where it's time to decide, we are going to do A, B, C. We are not going to do these things. And quite often when that happens, you'll get a little flack for it. But here's what happens. Even if you do catch a little flack for something here and there, it's usually not very much. Most people are really quite supportive. But what happens is when you actually have a kid, you discover that you feel a lot better prepared for it. Not only do you feel better prepared for it, but your life actually reacts better. Things start falling back into place really quickly. You don't have to spend a lot of time fleshing out, well, how do I react to him doing this? How do I react to him doing this? Right in the moment. You're already ready. You've decided. You know what you're supposed to be doing, and you can just follow through. That's a lot easier. It's a lot easier than being in the middle of a situation and having to try and decide then. So our 3 steps. Watch and think, talk, decide. If you're thinking of having a kid, or you have a kid, you've probably been through these a lot already, but we found it helpful, for ourselves at least, to actually identify what those steps have been, because it doesn't really stop. We're still watching other parents, we're still talking about things, we're still learning from other parents, we're still making decisions as to how we're going to raise Tiberius and the other children that are going to follow him. Thanks for watching today. If you enjoyed, consider hitting that subscribe button or giving it a thumbs up. We'll be back next Wednesday with another Dad Corner.